Hi everybody, in this video we're going to talk about unit 3.1.1, which is decimals and fractions. So our first term that we're going to be writing in is decimal numbers as soon as I get my pen tool up here. So we're going to be writing in decimal numbers. So decimal numbers are numbers whose place values are based on tens or the tens place, right? And then we're going to talk about place value as our next term. So place value is the value of a digit based on its position within a number. Based on its position within a number. So for example, we might have something like 45.6. And again, based on its position within the number, this is going to be the tenths place. And then this will be the ones place. And then this is the tens place. Sorry, I tried to get that hair off it's like a little dog hair on my screen. But anyway, so the fours in the tens place, ones place, tenths place. So we're just going to take these first numbers and we're just going to put them into our table here. Honestly, one of the big reasons why we put this table here is because in EdReady, it's going to give you some number like this, and it's going to say, what number is the 6 located, or what place is this 6 located in? And you would say, well, the place it's in is the hundredths place. And sometimes if you misspell it, it's going to count it wrong. And so right here, we give you the spelling for it. Also, any place that's going to be past the decimal, you're just going to spell it like the word, like if we say 100, it's going to be 100, and then you're going to put the th on there, the THS. So the THS is going to be on the end of those words. So one, the one is the ones, and then you have the decimal point, and then the tenths, and then the hundredths, and then the thousandths. So you spell the word thousand, and then you put on the end, THS, and that's how you're going to spell it. And if you, again, this is your free day to kind of spit on your neighbors around you. Because you've got to properly say your decimals. So my poor computer, I'm gonna have to wipe it down after this because it's in my splash zone. I'm gonna have to wipe it down. And so if my kids were close by, they'd also be in the splash zone. So thankfully we've got a little bit before they come home from school. All right, so our number here, we're putting it in, it's gonna be 745 and 36 hundredths. So oftentimes you'll hear me say, you'll hear other people say 745.36 or 745.36. If we're saying it properly and we're putting the and in place of the decimal, it would be 745 and 36 hundredths. Here's the other kind of misconception or mistake that occurs. People will say 745 and 36 hundredths. There is no and after 700. It's just 745 and 36 hundredths. So careful on that one. All right, so then our next one, it's going to be 5 and 81 hundredths. Then our next one's going to be 60 and, careful here, don't go 203. It will be 203 thousandths. And then this next one, how do we say that one? How do we say that one? So typically we would say 0.02. Well, look at what place value that 2 is in. How many hundredths do we have? We have 2. So you just say 2 hundredths. 2 hundredths. All right, so then we're going to look at this next portion and we put it, we're going to look at decimal notation versus fraction notation versus the word form. So our decimal notation for 1,000 is just kind of our standard notation. So 1,000 versus fraction notation would be 1,000 over 1. And then we'd have 100, which is going to be 100 over 1. Then we have 10, and then we've got 10 over 1, 1, and we've got 1 over 1, and then we've got 1/10, which again, as decimal notation, is going to be 0.1 or 1/10. And then we've got 1/100th, so it's going to be 0.01, which is going to be 1 over 100. And then 1,000th is going to be 0.001, and it's going to be 1 over 1,000 for that. Then down here, it says, what is the place value of the 7 in the 384.2671? Well, you should pause this video and see if you could do all of those. See if you can do 1 through 4 all on your own. See if you can get it 100% right. And then hit play on this video and speed me up so that way it'll go through a little bit faster, because I have a feeling you're probably going to get those and you're going to do just fine on them. So pause the video, answer the 4 questions, and then come back and hit play. Watch me on hyperspeed, and you should be able to see that you are very close, if not 100% correct on these. So what is the place value of the 7? So if you're not sure, you can always count out. You can go tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So spell the word thousand, and then put the THS on the end. And then what is the place value of the 2? So sometimes I'll have students go, oh, that's a once. That's not the once. There is no once place. There's a ones place, which the 4 is in the ones place. But the 1 place past the decimal is the tenths place. So we write the word 10, and then we do THS, tenths. What number is in the hundreds place? So notice it's not hundredths place, it's hundreds place. So we've got our ones place, our tens place, our hundreds place. It should be 3. And then what number is in the hundredths place? Oftentimes there will be a mistake and students will say, oh, it's a 7. It's not a 7, that's a thousandths, right? So count it out, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So the hundredths would be the 6 for that one. And then we're moving along on our table here. So here we're gonna write it in word form. So here again, be careful where you put the and. This is also checking our spelling, right? So it's gonna be 7 and 8/10. 7 and 8/10. And then it would be 7 and 8/10. And then it says here, write it as a simplified fraction. So then this would be 7 and 4/5 to write it as a simplified fraction. 0.5 is going to be 5/10. How many tenths do we have? We have 5 of them. 5/10. So 5/10 is going to be 1/2. And then we've got 68 hundredths. 68 hundredths. So 68 hundredths. So we're going to do 68 over 100. Divide them both by 4, and we should end up with 17 over 25. Divide them both by 4, should end up with 17 over 25. All right, then our next one, we should have 5 and 300 41 thousandths. 341 thousandths. So 5 and 341 thousandths, and that one does not reduce. Then our next one, we're going to have 26 and 9/10. So 26 and 9/10. And then our last one, kind of a longer one, 594 and 15/100. So 594 and here's your decimal, 15/100. All right, so 594 and 15/100. Then you should be able to divide the numerator and the denominator by 5. And so you're going to get 594 3/20 for that one once you reduce it. All right, so writing decimals and simplified fractions. Says write 0.6 as a simplified fraction. So if I was you, it's kind of going back up to what we were just doing in that table, and say it. Like instead of saying 0.6, it would be 6 what? What place is it in? And it would be 6/10. So I would write it like that, or I'd write 6/10, and then you're going to reduce it. You're going to divide them both by 2, so you're going to end up getting 3/5, like that. And so the next one, write 0.64 as a simplified fraction. So it would be 64/100. 64/100. And if I was you, pause this video. Like this is one normally, if we were doing this in class, I would have you guys do this all, and then I would just check your answers as I walk around the classroom. So if I was you, pause the video, see if you can do, the rest of these 2 through 6 on your own. And then I'll do a couple more with you down here. And then the same thing, I want you to pause the video and then see how you do on your own and see how you're doing on those. So pause the video right now, and then I'm going to work through the rest of these, but I want you guys to also work through them on your own and then hit play back on the video and then watch the rest of it to see how you do. So this one should be 64/100, and we are ready to divide, and we can divide them both by 4, in which case we are going to get 16/25 for our final answer. The other thing you can do if you're like, man, I kind of stink at reducing them, how do I know if I did it right? You can always go back and put this in your calculator. You can do 16 divided by 25 in your calculator, and you should get back 0.64 in your calculator. So try it, because that's what you should get back for your answer. The next one is 645 tens, hundreds, thousands. So thousands. So we're going to do 645 over 1,000. That one's also reducible, so we can reduce that one, and that one ends up reducing to 129 over 200. So 129 over 200. So divide these guys by 5, and you should get 129 over 200. The next one, tens, hundreds, thousands. So it's going to be 7 over 1,000, and then check to see if that's reducible, and it is not. So that is going to be your final answer. The next one, it says write 8.65 as a simplified mixed number. So it's going to be 8 and 6/500. So 8 and 6/500. See what we can take out. It looks like we could at least take out a 5. So if we are taking out a 5, it looks like we are ending up with 8 and 13/25. And we can't reduce that any further. So that is our simplified mixed number. And then our last one here, it says write 2.04 as a simplified mixed number. So it should be 2 and 4/100. And then we can definitely reduce that. Let's divide both sides by, or both the numerator and the denominator, by 4. So then we're going to get 2 and 1/25 for our final answer there. Then we are going to be working on writing fractions as decimals. So writing fractions as decimals. To write a fraction as a decimal, we are simply dividing. So simply divide the numerator by the denominator. So this is just a calculator exercise. So this one, get out your calculator. We're going to convert the following fractions into decimals. If the decimal repeats, use the repeating bar to indicate so over the repeating digits, digit or digits, and you're allowed to use a calculator. So 1/2, you might actually know what that one is. But again, you're taking in your calculator, you're just doing 1 divided by 2, and then you're hitting the equals, and then that should give you 0.5. And then think about it. If I know that one's like an oversimplified example, but you can always go back if you're like, did I do that right? Because I know sometimes I've had students, they flip it and they'll try to do 2 divided by 1, and they're going to get 2, right? So that's not the right answer here. And so what you can always do is you can just double check. You can say, okay, 1/2, 0.5, 5/10. 5/10, does that get me back to 1/2? Yes, because that reduces to 1/2. So you can always kind of go back where we started from, like up here, and try to do the reverse process to make sure that you're ending up where we started. All right, so 3/8. Take 3, divide it by 8. This is another one of those things. Pause the video, go hit that pause button right now, because you should put each of these in your calculators and figure out what you're getting as a decimal and then write your answer out. So pause the video. I'm going to go through and give you the answers, but you should make sure that you're getting these answers on your own so that you know how to do this on your own. All right, so in our calculator, we're doing 3 and we're dividing it by 8. You're hitting equals. You should be getting 0.375. And that's a terminating decimal, or a decimal that ends. 4 divided by 11. So take 4, divide it by 11 in your calculator, and you are getting a repeating decimal for this one. So you're doing 4, you're dividing it by 11, and you got out 0.3636. It just kept going. And the repeating portion of that is the 36. So we're going to write it out as 0.36, and it's a repeating decimal. The next one is we've got 2 1/4. So here you can do 2 point, and then we're figuring out what this next part is. Because it's 2 and something, and then do the 1 divided by the 4. And you might already know what that is, and that's going to be 0.25 because it's 25%, right? So it's 2.25. Here's another way to do this. Some students have asked me, can't I just change this into an improper fraction and then divide it? So could I do 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9, and that's 9 divided by 4. Can I just do in my calculator 9 divided by 4? Absolutely. You can do 9 divided by 4, and then you're going to get out 2.25 for your answer. So either or, you could do either one of those options. Okay. So then here we are doing 7 2/3. So again, you're doing 7 point something. That something is going to be the 2 divided by 3 in your calculator, which gives you 0.666, and it just keeps going. Some of you in your calculators, depending on the calculator you have, it might say a 7 way down here at the end. The reason why is because your calculator is this more simple calculator. And so it's taking that next digit and it's saying, well, if we were to round up at the very end, it would be 0.66666 with the 7 at the end. But what I want you to look at is ahead of it. And before it, it was that 6 repeating. And that's exactly what 2/3 is. 2/3 is going to be 0.6 repeating. And so that's what we're going to put in here. We're going to do 7.6 with the repeating bar above it. And then finally, we've got 9 5/18. So you're going to do the 5 and you're going to divide it by 18. And you're going to get that out, what that is as a decimal. And it's going to be 9 point. And what do we end up getting for that one? It should be 27 repeating. So we should be getting 27 repeating for that, because you're going to get 0.2727, and that just keeps going on that one. So just make sure that you guys were able to get those answers on your own as well. And then that is it for this video. Thanks for tuning in.